You're watching Public Comment every Thursdays at 8 a.m. The live stream. Detroit is different and Bridge Detroit. Local politics of Detroit. Welcome back to another episode of Public Comment and a special announcement. For a while, it's going to just be me and Malachi, old school style, because Thomaesa Bailey is actually taking on some electoral work in the great state of Georgia. Thomaesa, what's going on?
Good morning, Khary. Thank you so much for the introduction. Yes, I do have a special announcement. Y'all know I'm a real life political operative. I really work with candidates and on campaigns. And I recently was called back to the front lines of Southern politics in Georgia to work for Jason Estevez, who is running for governor of Georgia. He is one of the front runners in a very extreme Democratic field, and they brought me in to get him outside, to get people to know him, because once you get to know Jason Estevez, he is one of the greatest people. And so I'm really excited to go back and help him become the next governor of Georgia. He's a progressive guy. He has great policies. So I'm really excited to go back. But it's going to be crazy. The Georgia gubernatorial race is going to be a very exciting race. It's going to be all over the news. So I invite everybody to follow me, look at what I'm doing, research Jason, look at the race. And yeah, we're gonna do this together. I'm really excited to share the information with you on We Own Everything's Instagram page, live from the campaign trail. So just tune in, and I'm really excited. And Khary, I want to say thank you so much for this opportunity to be on Public Comment for this long. This has been the honor of my life. What you have built here, you have a media empire, and you allowed me to come and be on your platform to talk about the thing that I love the most, which is policy and politics. And I couldn't thank you enough. So I just appreciate you. And I wanted to make sure that I said that to you.
Wow, thank you. That is very humbling, because I definitely don't see it as such, especially with this show. It was like something that kicked off, and I was like, yo, Malachi, you want to keep rolling with this? And surprisingly, we have stuck to this for a long time. And speaking of Malachi, you already know what we talking when we do Public Comment, but thank you so much, Thomaesa. You add so much more perspective when it comes to policy. I almost feel like I can just be like a point guard, other than when I go on those rants and it's like, okay, I can pass this to Malachi, pass that to Thomaesa, and go like that, instead of just being like, this is what happened and blah, 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 from my perspective of community. And when we talk about community, this is one of those interesting weeks, Malachi. It's zoning discussion coming up in this.
Yeah, are people tired of talking about zoning? I don't know. I always try to like let people know, like, I know zoning is like not a sexy topic, but it's about what can be done on the land in Detroit, which like a lot of people do care about. So we do have another interesting zoning proposal. I think it's like the third one that we've reported on recently. And all being decided right now. So it's a good time to tap in on that.
And let me say this, zoning is something you don't think about until it happens in your neighborhood. And you like, why in the hell do I got 18-wheelers driving down my street? Why do I have all of this new construction that's industrial in my neighborhood? I'm seeing all this dust and everything going on. It's like zoning, you think doesn't matter until it really matters. And then you're like, damn, I see why zoning is happening there. And why do I have so much green space in some of these other communities? So I would say zoning is one of those things you don't pay attention to, but when you start paying attention to it, it's like the offensive line in football. Matters all the time. So I'm about to add something to the stage.
I think it's really just the terminology
that
it gets confusing. I mean, there's just a lot of like, I don't know, technical language, I guess you could say, that kind of bogs down, like, what are we actually talking about? We're really just talking about, zoning is the rule for what you can do on a particular piece of property. There's all kinds of different classifications, and the city often changes those designations to suit different planning efforts and like long-term strategies of what areas of the city should look like based on feedback that either aligns with what people want to see, or sometimes it doesn't. So this stuff is all kind of like puzzle pieces that get moved around and changed for a variety of factors.
And it's definitely going into historic. Like I say, zoning doesn't matter until you end up in a historic district. Then you got your crib and you're like, okay, cool, I can just get new windows. Not so fast. Not so fast. You can't get that wall side deal, because if it's a historic, piece, and it's preserving that. You have to keep up the integrity of what the house looks like, and it's like all these types of sanctions for it. People know new zoning proposal aims to save Detroit's historic buildings. Public hearing will be November 6th. Ordinance would allow 50 plus new conditional uses in residential districts. So, like we say, it's like these 50 uses in residential districts as we get into like where things are. I don't know if any of you all ever been to Texas, but that's a very interesting place where it'll be like a church, a school, an oil refinery, a daycare center.
They
It's
don't
like
have zoning in Texas.
A 10-gallon hat store. Next
yeah,
door.
exactly. So it's like, what is going on here? And it's like the economy's booming, but I got pollution everywhere. But like, things like that happen because it's pretty much free trade. It's open to do whatever you want.
We've encountered our first vocabulary word that I'd like to explain briefly. What is a conditional use? That means essentially that it's allowed if you get approval from the cities. Though on paper, these are uses that are allowable under the condition that you basically prove, that it would adhere to certain development standards. It's different than a by right use, which means you can just do it and you don't need approval from, I think it's the Board of Zoning Appeals and then ultimately the City Council. So yeah, that's what that means. Conditional basically means that there still will be a check in the system on these different uses, but it basically opens it up for the potential for 50 new types of things in residential units.
Okay, so this is definitely, while she's here, we got to ask this because the policy person in the mix, Thomaesa, zoning. If these 50 new uses conditional, break down a little bit more of the policy perspective of a lot of this.
So I want to just reiterate how important zoning is. Zoning is very important. It's kind of like what we talked about. It's what you can do on a piece of land. It's what can be built in your neighborhood. It's what can be built next to your house or next to your school. So zoning is really important. As it relates to conditional uses, I'm not a zoning scholar, but having the opportunity to have conditional uses and to even be able to go before city council and say, I would like to use this piece of land for something else is really all about flexibility and being able to build in certain areas or build certain things in certain communities. So that the policy behind it is about flexibility. The policy behind it is about not stifling trade or not stifling construction, not stifling all of these types of things that we want to kind of see in our community. Because if we think about some earlier laws that were passed, right, like changing some rules around business licensing and small business owners and things like that, all of that is meant to have flexibility so that we can increase what's going on in our neighborhood, so that we can increase our commercial corridors. And conditional uses kind of do the same thing as it relates to zoning and building and construction in your neighborhood. And so it's a positive thing, I think, to have conditional uses that they're not by right, like Malachi said, right? You can't just do it without approval. But having the opportunity to go for approval and say, hey, here's my plans, here's what I would like to do, and I really think it would be a good thing for the community. I think that that's an important part of this as well.
We'll probably talk about some of these uses. I mean, there's 50 of them, so we won't probably talk about all of them. But another thing I just want to bring up is this is being billed as an adaptive reuse and tactical preservation ordinance. So adaptive reuse basically just means that they were trying to find new uses, better uses for a lot of the crumbling, schools, libraries, churches, institutional buildings like former firehouses and police stations, even factories and like larger buildings. So the idea is these buildings have been very hard to develop for a variety of reasons. Zoning restrictions are kind of part of it because they're located. I mean, you imagine where a church is, right? It's like in the middle of a neighborhood. There's houses all around. It's probably pretty difficult to turn that into like a coffee shop or something like they have with the congregation. So yeah, the idea is to basically make those buildings that are kind of cornerstones and original anchors of neighborhoods and why people, moved into certain areas and houses sprung up around them. Those institutions now are gone. There's a ton of vacant schools across the city. The city did this like study in 2019. Super interesting. It's online. I always bring it up to people because they did an inventory of every vacant school, who owns it. A lot of them are owned by the city. I think around half, maybe most. Yeah, maybe more than that even. And like the viability of redeveloping them. So this builds on a process, intentionality around, tactical preservation of these buildings that's been going on for a couple of years now. And obviously in the context of demolishing properties and a lot of the frustrations that people have had with, community anchor type buildings, great historic, cool, old libraries and things being torn down because we've been, in some people's opinion, kind of overzealous on demolition, but also the reality is like it's been very difficult to do things with these buildings. And I know Councilmember Tate in particular, other members of the council have talked about wanting to do something with all these schools. So
Yeah.
This makes me think about. Oh, go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to add, check the archives of Detroit is different when Councilmember Tate was here and just speaking about like some of the structures and the way the materials, first off, that a lot of the buildings were built with, asbestos removal, lead removal possibly, and then also a lot of these structures, and it's actually a beautiful thing about the city of Detroit. Like they're sound structures, so they're not built with the same, I guess, more easily destructible materials that a lot of things are built with now. So like you're going through like a lot of concrete, a lot of like hard brick, limestone, things like that. And that's what makes it very difficult for the flow of like, okay, bringing in new plumbing that could fit for today, heating and cooling. It makes it more difficult. I do still think that some of the creativity around like the energy put into this could have been put into that. We definitely know a lot of demolition. So what happens? It's a field like Longfellow Middle School, elementary school that's in my neighborhood. Like right now, that field is just so huge and just what exists there, and it's just in the middle of the neighborhood. I mean, it's a small park that they put there, but it definitely is a space where I wonder what could happen there. Now that it's sitting there. Thomaesa?
Yeah, I was just gonna say this reminds me of what Rod Hardiman is doing over in the Chippewa Johnson's Rec area, where he is turning the Higginbotham School, which is a historic school, a historic building, into apartments. He is using some of the tools that he, was able to get from the city to be able to now change this school that used to be an anchor building, a building where everybody went to. I think if you guys know Miss Teresa Moon, she went to the Higginbotham School and she was at the ribbon cutting when they decided that they were going to turn it into apartments. And so this type of revitalization is already happening in some of our communities. And so I think that that's going to be a great thing. And he was a big partner in the community about, hey, we understand what this is zoned for. We understand what used to be right here. We respect you. We respect this building. We know that it's historically designated, so we can't change a lot of it. So it won't change the tenor of the community. And he did a really good job in making sure that they understood that. And now there's going to be, apartments in that community, and people are in support of it. Miss Hazel Flood, who is one of the community voices over there, is in support of it. And so I think this is just one example of what can be done now that we have this in the city.
Most definitely. And also when we talk about the city, the other thing that is always brought up in the city of Detroit is a lot in reference to public safety, and then the approach that definitely has been taken when it comes to the community violence intervention. So investment in peace, the state actually backs CVI in Detroit. Right? Michigan allocates 72 million to violence prevention statewide. So Detroit will have some more support of what's happening in reference to that, right? So looking at this, this is something that we definitely know spearheaded I guess police commissioner now, Ty Bettison, even the Duggan office. This is definitely touched with Mary Sheffield. Many were saying like, okay, if we can get more preventative about how this is all happening, being more keen to like what's happening and moving around or through social media, having other resources and things that can happen, and making sure that we're being preventative about this as opposed to, dealing with the challenge after the fact. That's been real. So this is something that a lot of people are applauding. Malachi, what was the discussion like?
Yeah, so this has been a long time coming. I think the funding was approved more than a year ago and has basically been sitting in the legislature waiting to be appropriated. So this new budget, significant because the state didn't shut down like we thought it might. It was teetering toward a government shutdown. But it also includes this funding that folks have been needing because the original program is funded with pandemic relief dollars that will no longer be available. So we stood up this program. It took a lot of advocacy and effort of the community violence intervention groups, which are just nonprofit groups largely in the city that use credible, what do they call them? I mean, violence interrupters basically is one term for it, but it's people that can, who are not cops, who can go talk to youth and convince them, to do something more constructive and kind of breaking those cycles of violence. So yeah, those groups were very active in trying to urge the city government to take them seriously and, more importantly, to fund them. They won that argument eventually, and now the city really embraces it. There was a press conference on Monday about the declining crime rate in the city, and there's a direct link being made by the mayor and other folks to CVI having a big impact on that. So, naturally, they thought they had a really good push for state money to fund it. Politics kind of got in the way, but now they have this money. They can expand the CVI zones. They're active in, I think, 30 square miles of the city now, and that'll go up to 36. They're going to add another group. And I'm interested, the U of M is studying some of the efficacy of this and getting more data on the impact. We have kind of some raw numbers in terms of like non-fatal shootings and homicides going down at a higher rate within the districts, within the areas that these groups are working compared to outside. And they're all in the some of the highest violence areas of the city. So they're really, targeting it where the need is. So we'll have more information soon on like how effective has it been, but generally it's been considered effective, and a model even for the state. This public safety trust fund money will be used to stand up new CVI groups in other communities, and I think other cities across the country are looking at what's going on here. So yeah, a lot of good news, a lot of celebration that the legislature did this, and a lot of celebration from our law enforcement officials and city officials here in Detroit that we continue to see shootings and homicides go down.
Most definitely, most definitely. So when we think of like these initiatives spreading and like how it could be taken across the state. So Thomaesa, as things go like from across the state that are in a city, as we know, Detroit's the largest city in Michigan. What does that look like from like a policy lens of where they may kind of see and pick up some clues of what could be executed?
Yeah, that's a good question. First of all, I am so happy to hear this. I spent a lot of time with our CVI groups here in Detroit, the People's Action, New Era Detroit. I did some work with the political education workshop with them, and they are out here like stopping fights. Like they're out here stopping violence from escalating. They are helping people pay their bills. Like they are really in the community, right? And so this is the way that we should approach community policing, especially in a city like Detroit. I think that we have a lot of self-determination here. And so funding these groups to be able to go out and deal with problems in their community as they see fit, I think is a great idea. And it's been working so far. As far as it relates to spreading around the state, when I heard that it was appropriated for this kind of work in other cities all over the state, I think that that's amazing as well, because we know that Detroit is not the only area that could benefit from this. Places like Flint and other places could really benefit from community policing, community organizing, and solving their problems. Because one thing that people don't really say about CVI groups is that it is very focused on violence intervention, right? It is very focused on making sure that violent crime isn't taking place in our communities. But these CVI groups also are providing social services. They're also providing wraparound services. They're also providing financial assistance to people, because we know that some of the determinants of crime are social, because people don't have access to a lot of things, because people are angry and they're frustrated, right? And so funding CVI groups to do the community work of violence intervention, as well as providing social services and helping out the community in ways that will lead to violence prevention, I think that that's really great. I think that is very positive that the state saw the value in this, and that we're going to be able to expand this, because it's only going to make Detroit better.
Most definitely. And also Force to Trade Zoe has been one of the people that I think I know most in this work, and Alea that's started Force to Trade. And seeing what that kind of grounded and moved forward with, this is something that I applaud. And with that, I do have to give this note. I know everybody has seen a lot of the stories about it. The passing of Carolyn Cheeks Kilpatrick. Carolyn Cheeks Kilpatrick, congressional U.S. Congress for years. And when I think about some of the resources that she poured into her district, it still stands today, over and beyond. Definitely throughout the Black community, her roots with the Shrine of the Black Madonna, that go beyond connecting to so many people, and relationships with community her whole term. I really like it was a essence of like being in that district. You just know the rec centers, the funding, even connecting to like making sure that Detroiters had a lot of census jobs, looking to bring over other federal resources to the city of Detroit. Her tenure in office in Congress really, when I was younger, it felt like, okay, this is just how it's always done. But now that I've grown older, I definitely have so much more honor for her work. And a lot of other publications are running the stories about her and her passing and what that legacy was. I'm personally going to say, just from my point of view, and her relationship with community and the way that she was grounded in community, boy, I have not seen a person appropriate more funding into a district in my life than Carolyn Cheeks Kilpatrick. She was one of those people that it's like, man, I really wish I could have got her on Detroit is Different. Should have just seized that moment in, but definitely that legacy looms so large. Rest in peace. I wanted to say that. I don't know if you all want to add any pieces about some of her tenure when she was in office, because boy, it was grand. And I know I got a couple more days on both of you all, so I don't know.
I mean, I'll say this. So Tuesday night I did a political education workshop, and the announcement was made that she had passed away. And so at that workshop, I was telling people the importance of who we're putting in these offices, right? When we vote for somebody, we're giving them power over us. And we need to make sure that the people that we give that power to are the right ones for the job. And Carolyn Cheeks Kilpatrick was the right person for the job, right? She was the one who was rooted in community. She was the one who was worthy of our vote. She went to Washington and brought money back for her community. And as you said, Khary, you can still see it. You can still see the benefits of that today. And so when we vote for people, when we put them in these, high offices and high up, where they can bring all this money back and they choose not to do it, that's letting you know something too, right? And so we have to think about who it is that we're putting in these offices. And Carolyn Cheeks Kilpatrick, her legacy is cemented, right? She is goated. Everybody knows what she did for the city of Detroit. And so I think it's amazing. And I'm glad that she has this legacy to this city. And people recognize that. People know her. People talk about her. When the announcement came in and people heard that she had passed away, there was like an audible like gasp and then silence, because people were like, oh my God, we really just lost a giant. And because they know what her legacy is. And she's one of the ones that was worthy of people's votes, and she went in and then she showed why she was worthy of that vote. And I think that that's what we need to focus on as we're thinking about voting for people.
Most definitely. I don't know if you want to add a piece, Malachi, of what you've been hearing. Different people spoke. Sherry Gay Dagnego spoke on just her working on that campaign. I saw that in like some of the stories, but Sherry's just entrenched in a lot of politics just for years. But so many others. My godmother Joanne Watson worked with her, even though Barbara Rose Collins ran against her, because at one point in time, Detroit had, inside the city of Detroit, we had 3 congressional seats. I know it's like hard to think to yourself now when both congressional seats are in Detroit and many other places, but for the longest time, you had 3 congressional seats because the population of Detroiters that were here at one point in time. That's a whole nother political discussion about districting and other things. But I don't know if you would like to add something, Malachi.
No, I mean, I think you guys pretty much said it all in terms of her impact. A little before my time. Definitely understand some of what you guys are saying, but I don't know. When people pass, it's also a good opportunity, I think, to go back and reflect on their legacy. So I'll be doing that in the days to come, I'm sure.
Most definitely. So with that being said, as you all see, it's going to be old school style. We're going to keep this thing rolling as we're getting closer to the election here. And it's a lot of eyes moving into city council races. I'm seeing more stories about city council races right now. I'm in District 5, as many Detroiters are in District 5, but yeah, District 5 and District 7 look to be some heated races right now. So we're paying attention to that. I'm sure we're going to talk a little bit more about that in public comment and Detroit Next and so much more. But continue to check out Detroit is Different. Malachi, talk to the people.
Well, first of all, congratulations, Thomaesa. I'm sorry we're losing you, but I know the voters of Atlanta are getting a good person. So I'm looking forward to seeing what you do down there. And sorry to our listeners, you're stuck with me and Khary again. So yeah, look forward to that. And we're rolling ahead on Detroit Next. We have interviews with Mary Sheffield and Solomon Kinlock. probably the last opportunity we're going to have to ask them some real questions, get some real significant time with them as absentee ballots are out and people are voting. But you can see that on our website, bridgedetroit.com. Go to YouTube. Support Detroit is different as well. We are both trying to keep our content free for everybody, and we think that's important. So we need some support to do that as well. But yeah, sign up for the notebook. That's my city council newsletter. Comes out Wednesdays. You guys probably already know about that. So thank you.
Definitely. Thomaesa, talk to the people.
Yeah, I am. I'm very excited about this new opportunity, but I'm still going to have an eye on Detroit politics. I'm still going to be getting my news from Bridge Detroit and seeing what Malachi is up to and what Bryce and Khary are up to. Also, this week I'm doing my political education workshop at Live 6. So Tuesday night was the first one. It was so good. I was like the people where we were having a good dialogue, a good conversation, and really just trying to educate people on why their vote is so important and why it matters. Tonight will be the second one. Thursday, October 9th. Come back to Live 6. If you were there on Tuesday, or if you haven't had the opportunity to get the information, please come out. It is political free game. I'm telling you how these politicians operate and the power that they have in these positions of power. And when we vote for them, we're giving them control and power over our lives. And so we need to take that very seriously. So come out tonight at 6 p.m. at Live 6. And there will be more to come. Thank you.
That being said, peace. You're watching Public Comment every Thursdays at 8 a.m. the live stream. Detroit is different in Bridge Detroit. Local politics of Detroit.